What is going on? I am joined by two lovely people. Say hi, everyone.
Howdy.
What's up?
What's up? Everyone forgot what Elliot sounds like. That
In the
beautiful,
flesh.
silky voice.
5 and 22.
Yeah. So, welcome everyone that's watching. Today we are just basically having a good time talking about the fact that we just dropped our first episode of season 3, which is really awesome and exciting. Talk a little bit about season 2, answer some questions that people had in the what the hell are those things called, Matt? Stories. I use the internet. I know how this works. So
Just learning. He's just
I,
learning.
I am. I didn't use Instagram before the podcast, so I'm still on that learning curve. All right. Yeah. So, Elliot, how you doing, buddy?
I am exhausted. I had a wedding weekend. Close friend of mine just got married. I don't know how I'm awake right now, but I am here. So I'm
Here for the
excited about this.
people.
Yeah, I'm excited about this episode. We've done a lot of work over the second season, sort of refining our craft. And I think the third season, we're going to continue to improve a little bit and really interested in hearing how you guys like the work that we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Good, Matt.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the new stuff that's coming out in season 3. Oh, we didn't get any mead.
Oh shit, we forgot to get mead. It's
Actually,
okay.
I bought a bottle of mead for the newlyweds. So I did buy the mead, but I forgot to get one for myself.
Oh Jesus,
I,
Elliot.
I,
So
I dropped the ball.
yeah, you dropped something. The bees would not be happy with you. So we did get a bunch of questions. We're going to answer a bunch of them as we go. If you want to drop a question, please do it either in the chat or you can go on the stories and see my little commentary on it. We also dropped a bunch of Fukuoka memes because the episode that just came out 6 minutes ago was on our boy Masanobu Fukuoka, Do Nothing Farming. Yes, we are going to talk about bee ethics this season. We actually already recorded the first episode of that. It's not for a little bit. It was because of a scheduling issue, so we ended up recording it just on a whim, and we were really happy with it, even though we didn't really fully prepare for it. So, real excited. I did a ton of research for it. I went down a real rabbit hole, and it's probably your fault, actually. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll be talking about bees and pollination, and are honeybees a problem? So I think you guys will really like it. The answer might surprise you, but it might not because I do a lot of yes and no's,
I
and
was
I'll
gonna say
just leave it at
it was
that.
probably a yes and no answer if I do recall. So
Yeah, that's
you'll
that's
you'll
my
love it.
my brand,
You'll love it or hate it. I don't know. We don't
or
know.
both.
Yeah,
I have a lot of those. A lot of people that love and hate us, and
annoying.
that's
So
okay.
annoying.
We are annoying. I don't know why anyone
All right.
listens to
I'm
us.
I'm sort of getting used to it. It just
It,
sticks in my
it
craw.
Yeah, so we do have some interesting stats. We released 63 episodes last season, which is just wild. It's like one a week plus a few extras, usually during the holidays, which came out to I think it was 51 hours of content, which
God
like that
damn.
means you could sit in a room and listen to us for 2 full days and not listen to every single episode. So that's weird.
Yeah, it was easy.
Uh,
We could easily double it. Easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
So when we did that, we had over 600,000 listens. So that is very cool. It's basically like the city of Boston listened to one episode, which is just weird.
Yeah, if
Very
only we
strange.
can for real get the city of Boston to listen to one episode.
If we did, be a big deal. And we had 326 citations in our episodes, which is also like basically a PhD thesis. So that's pretty
Quite
cool too.
impressive. Quite impressive.
So that was basically the season 2 wrap up. We did get a couple questions about first one around season 2 that we got. We'll kind of just organize it around kind of the content area, not the order the questions came in. Someone asked what our most exciting guest from season 2 was, and I guess that's kind of mine because I do most of the interviews, and that would probably be having Peter back on, Peter Gelderloos, he's just great and super knowledgeable, and I always walk away like very amped up after talking to him. Um, if you haven't read his most recent book, definitely recommend it. I think I might have it behind me. Uh, I don't, but it's the solutions are already there, are here. I can't read the whole title because it's like paragraph, but definitely go grab it. It's up probably free on the Anarchist Library. Really good, insightful book. Kind of overwhelming at first, but definitely a worthwhile read. Um, that was actually the only question we had on season two. One question on season three we got is season three going to be any different? Um, yeah, I think so. We have Matt being more involved, which is fun.
Yeah,
We're going to
you can
kind
hear
of
me speak very occasionally.
yes, you can hear that sort of British accent. It's beautiful. Uh,
Mhm.
so we are going to be dipping into some more historical content, which I think is going to be really interesting and insightful in a different way than like the prologues and pro models have been. And we'll be talking about like a mix of more contemporary stories around agriculture. So talking about just agriculture in general, agricultural history. Similar to like the corn episode, where it's like a brief history of corn. We talk about this like story to kind of talk about how we ended up with a food system like we have today, and some other anomalies that have come along and impacted ecological and just in some cases some giant clusterfucks. So we've got some really cool stuff. The entire season three is fleshed out, much to the hatred that I get when I'm like, "Hey, go check the spreadsheet." And they're like, "Why do you know what we're dropping on April 4th, 2023? It is August."
Yeah, and we joke about the list all the time, but I'm
Oh, it's a
fairly
real
confident.
thing.
I'm fairly confident we'll all be long dead before we ever see the end of it.
It's
So
like one of those like
it's
Cold
given
War
us something to
computers.
do. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's long, but I look at it and just say it's all possible content. Um, and some of the topics are just really fascinating and interesting. And then the other stuff we know what's filler, like the monster and all of those things that are there at the end of the list. That's all filler
Hey,
stuff, but
no, there's no filler. None of it is
oh,
filler. We are doing
okay, Andy.
our first four-part episode this season, and it is about the most esoteric niche content that like either people are going to be like,
that our
I'm not
listeners
listening to.
come for.
Yeah, that they come for. Yes, it's in our agricultural history series, and the only reason I know it's going to be a four-parter is because like I've written out my notes, and it is four times longer than our typical notes. So I know it's just going to be a monster of an episode, and I think it's going to be really really fun to do. And thank you so much, Sea Bunny Warrior. I'm glad the podcast is helping. We actually just got some new reviews yesterday. Well, I saw them today on iTunes, talking about that they got more out of our first couple episodes than they did in their undergrad school. So that was pretty cool.
Love to hear it. You'll love to
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah. The reviews are surreal. Very often, I'm just like totally mind blown and humbled because I'm just a guy and people are like, "Oh, this is amazing," and I'm glad people are interested in validating what we're doing. So that's really cool. But yeah, Matt, what do you think about season three? Is it any other ways it's going to be different?
I mean, we have like different miniseries coming up. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward. Well, have we hinted at what any of the ones are? Can we hint at what the miniseries coming up is?
I will give you the
Drop some
discretion.
teasers, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, okay. I'll just say I'm looking forward to like the community defense like few episodes. That's gonna be
yeah,
really cool.
that that is far
Fun to
down the
have a
line.
conversation
Yeah.
about some of those things. We and I think Andy picked some interesting topics to cover for that section there for community defense specifically. The topics that we cover, I don't know a lot of people have talked about them unless people have gone out of their way to research and look at it. But I think it's going to be an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely finally getting into that other non-ecological side of things. Still supplementary to the podcast more so than we're not replacing the ecological side, but the way we've branded the podcast, it is something I do want to cover. I think it's important. I think it plays into how we understand community and our responsibility to community. And I think that is the part that sometimes gets lost in conversations about like these abstract ideas of what is community and how do we create community, but also how do we defend community and what does that functionally look like. And Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and I think it'll be really cool. So what else did we get for? Well, Elliot, you got any teasers you want to drop for the season?
There are a couple of episodes that Andy I have put myself in charge of. And those are also in the community defense section as well. And then the bees, man, I'm really excited about the bees. Those were a lot of fun to do when we were doing those episodes. We had a lot of fun with it, but at the same time, there was a lot of information in there that was new to me. So I actually did get to learn a lot, which just makes it all the more fun when you're actually learning, interested, and having fun with it. Because Andy, I know you had fun with those episodes. Those
Oh,
are
I
great.
do. I went
Yeah.
down some very dangerous rabbit holes. I was like, Elliot, I found this paper in 1972. It's what this other paper refers to, and he was just like, you're losing it. You're absolutely
Yeah,
losing it.
we totally make the reference. He has his Charlie from Always Sunny when he was working in the mailroom. There was a few times where Andy was just that, but it was about bees, not Pepe Lopez.
It's true. It happened. Another question is: are we going to talk about tomatoes in season 3? We are not. No
It's gonna be
tomatoes.
like a season 12 sort of venture.
It's like The
Yeah, we
Simpsons. Like once we get there, the show has already gone way downhill.
exactly. We just keep pushing that way down the list. Like I said, we'll be dead and gone before we get to the end of it. So
Probably.
good luck with your tomatoes.
Yeah. Not well. I'll do the peripheral podcast questions. So someone asked about the Poor Proles or the Proles Network. So what we've been doing is collabing with other podcasts that we kind of have a lot of alignments with. Death and Friends being one of them. If you guys have noticed, I've done a lot of their content. Uh, Nash Flynn is one of our. She does a little bit of work for us, doing some cross referencing, some uh, feedback, much like Matt, and making sure that we don't say anything too stupid. And so we've been helping them trying to get their brand out there. Obviously, I have my other podcast tomorrow today, and I've also got the little mini series that I'm doing right now with Aisha Khan on or the Woke Scientist on the Gastropocene about food systems and basically a very, very abridged version of this podcast, just like framing up ecology and food, why are they separated, what we need to do to get those things back in alignment. But like the Cliff Notes version. Um, so obviously I've got my own projects. We've got Death and Friends. We've got a couple other podcasts that we are working to bring into the fold with the idea of basically um, leveraging the Matt and Ellie have heard me talk about this like a million times, but Instagram and Facebook do this really cool thing where they like to promo for free big Instagram and Facebook handles because they want the algorithm to feed itself and to get people to engage with new content and ultimately like fight or whatever so that they get more exposure, more eyes, repeated eyes, all that good stuff. So they once you get to a certain size, they will basically help you continue to grow. So you've got free advertising through that model. Now, the traditional model of networks, radio networks, whatever, has always been around this idea of we have money, we will spend money to promo your shit, and then on the back end, we get our money back, right? So we don't have money, but we do have this machine that tries to make money off of us through memes and all of that kind of stuff. So instead of spending money, we can spend our meme space. We can spend that meme algorithm system by gaming and pairing memes with the podcast content to give it free exposure. Basically, what would cost money in if you were to try to market it the same way, but while also being more effective because people are engaging with it on the algorithm and so on. So that's been basically the framework of that is we're gaming the algorithm to give us free advertising, and it's pretty good. It's been really good. It's been really successful, and we've got some folks that we're gonna bring into the loop, try to make the network a little bit bigger, and keep trying to grow. That's the goal, is to get it bigger, get exposure, get people to listen. Glad people are enjoying Tomorrow Today. So uh, you are familiar with Nash Flynn as well because she's my co-host on that show. So yeah, we have a lot of overlap. So that's basically the idea behind the network, and it's basically, we always talk about how do we build systems outside of, how do we organize, how do we try to align the way we do business, the way we live, outside of the scope of that extractive economy of capitalism, right? How do we build cooperatives, collaboratives, and these types of things? And they're still framed within capitalism, but we're finding ways to kind of make it more equitable, right? And this is kind of that same idea. Instead of having to play the game of many podcasts that go on, like, once they get to a certain size, go on bigger networks, which then basically extract and exploit. And those podcasts might get a paycheck, but they're burning themselves out.
We get paid for
And
this?
I mean, sort of, a little bit.
What?
So that is basically the idea, is like to showcase a model that's an alternative. And even if we don't get huge, or grow any podcast to being huge or whatever, hopefully it's a model that people that are not us see, and ideally improve on. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. We're figuring this out.
We are
And
totally winging all of this.
oh,
So
absolutely.
if
Like,
if it looks like we don't have an idea about what we're doing, 100% true. We don't.
oh yeah, like, this is we Elliot and I are not big social media people in general, and we had no social media cred when we started this. We had
Bro,
nothing to work with. We had no audience. We had no one that cared. No one in my life in the meat space outside of Elliot even knows the podcast exists. So, like,
truly, we really don't promote. I don't promote the podcast to my friends and family because they're already annoyed by me as it is, just being there. So
it's true. I've
trying to
been
get
there.
them to listen to me talk about something I have no idea what I'm talking about for an hour is it's quite a trip. We
Yeah,
put that out on social media. Andy's done a great job of creating meme content and engaging with our audience, and he's done a really good job the past year, really really tuning into that. So congrats and good job on that, buddy. I will give you
thanks.
a round of applause for that because you've done a great job.
I'm glad this is recorded because I'm going to save that clip and, like, play it every time you're annoyed with me now. Going into an episode, like, at some
I'm
point, I'm
I
gonna
am
cut out the
extremely.
intro. I'm just gonna put that in there instead.
Yep, I'm extremely hungover. My brain's still wet, so yeah, you can have that one. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say it a little bit more sarcasm. Yeah. Good job, buddy.
Good job, buddy. So another question we got is around Sylvan Aqua Farms, asking if they were going to come on the podcast. So Chris and I have chatted a bunch. He's got his own reasons why he doesn't do a lot of external content anymore, and we'll always give him the option to come on if he wants to, but as you've noticed, he doesn't do a whole lot anymore as he used to for a number of reasons, and I fully support him in what he wants to do. If you're not familiar with Sylvan Aqua Farms, you should go check them out. They do some really cool stuff, and I definitely think if you are in the DC area, you should probably be supporting them. And that's Sylvan Aqua, Sylvanaqua. So go check out what they're doing. They're cool. He's a cool dude. He's got a cool project going on. Definitely worth checking out.
And I
Another
find his perspective refreshing. He does do great work, but I find his perspective on certain things very. It helps me see things from a different perspective. I have a hard time wrapping my head around a lot of things that we talk about, and yeah, I've learned a lot. So it's good stuff. Good stuff over there.
Yes, he's an angry man. He will make you feel stupid. Um, so another question we got, and I don't know exactly what this question is, but it just says foodways of Scooby snacks. So, Matt, take it. This is you.
Well, don't people like make their own like Scooby snacks. Well, okay, first of all,
Do you
they're
think it's
like
like pemmican?
it's like what?
Pemmican, like
Beef jerky.
the it's like a nut jerky thing that like indigenous people used to like or would make for the winter,
Huh?
because it like stored really well.
Maybe. And
Okay,
well,
sorry, I cut you off.
you
Go ahead.
could get like little. You used to be able to like buy like Scooby snacks, right?
Oh, my kids eat Scooby snacks. They absolutely do.
What the
Yeah,
hell is it? Are you feeding your
It's just
kids dog treats?
it's graham crackers. They're just shaped
it's
like
graham
Scooby
crackers.
snacks.
Yeah, shaped like dog treats.
That is just I have no words. I don't know how I would feel. I don't have kids, but I guess I probably would give them dog treats. They're fucking animals. So
Oh my god, that reminds me. The other day, the dogs here at the farm, because it's like a pork farm, they eat really well, of course. And so I was like, the other day, I was like making a little like ground pork and eggs for breakfast, and it comes around and it's like, oh, that's the dog food.
wow,
That's
It was
awesome.
like
those
last
dogs
year's
eat better than
ground.
your kids, Andy. I'm calling somebody.
Good, do it.
Calling child services. That's messed up.
So, okay, let's talk about this. Foodways of Scooby snacks. What does
Well,
that
they're
mean
like
now,
mostly
Matt?
like wheat, right?
Yeah,
Wheat and like sugar.
sugar.
Okay, wait, hang on. We gotta
So what you're
Google
saying
that.
is Scooby snacks are a reflection. They're a cross cuisine from Europe to sugar is originally. Where is sugar originally from?
Okay,
Not the Caribbean.
the oh wait, the vanilla wafers.
So
Looking
they're
at
like a
Scooby.
global
I gotta
cuisine
see
then if
those.
we're starting to get all these different ingredients. Really, we are not
Yeah.
appreciating the diversity, the multiculturalism of the Scooby snack and the foodway of the Scooby snack.
Okay, they are. So I guess like what's in a graham cracker, really?
Everyone's gonna watch you Google what's in a graham cracker. Matt, come on, you're
I'm
better
on
than this.
the Wikipedia page for graham cracker at
Oh,
the
so we're
moment.
we're getting advanced sources now, not just Google.
Yeah.
I like those little Google like quick like infos. It's a
Mm-hmm.
game changer, but you also have no idea where that's coming from.
Wait.
Yeah, a Scooby snack is just a graham cracker, but it looks like a dog treat. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who has confused the two and eaten dog treats.
Or
Andy,
giving
I'm
their
look,
Graham
dog
cracker.
Andy, I'm
some
looking at
graham
you, buddy.
crackers. I haven't done that yet. Somebody
Graham
asked,
crackers used to be like fermented dough, it says.
"That's dope." Wait, now I need to know
Wow.
why it's called graham cracker.
Oh, because for graham. Oh,
Like somebody
for
named Graham.
graham. Because of graham flour, which is a type of coarse ground flour named after Sylvester Graham,
This
who
feels very
was a
Kellogg's-y.
Presbyterian minister and dietary reformer, known for
Yeah,
his
so
emphasis on vegetarianism, the temperance movement, and eating whole grains.
Hell
uh,
yeah.
This guy
he's
sounds like
definitely like the
no
Kellogg's
fun.
dude.
Yeah, I'm sure. Um, the American Vegetarian Society.
Who asked this question?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
The foodways of Scooby snacks. You guys are going
We've
down.
gone down
You're
a
going
rabbit
down
hole.
this hole. Yeah, you're getting in there.
This is what happens, except it's like me on academic websites when someone asks questions usually. All right, so we've got a question in the comments section. So does honey locust fix nitrogen? So yes, extension schools often say no. Extension schools are also traditionally very conservative in the content that they give. They're very quick to deny until it's like an absolute 100% like common knowledge kind of thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like there is a space for like a very conservative analysis of like data. But actually, a Tufts University, I believe, study on honey locust showed that while honey locusts don't fix nitrogen using the same nodules that basically every other nitrogen fixing plant does. They have a different process, but they don't know what it is. But they can document it, but they don't know what it is. So like it's like you're missing some steps, but you see the end result. So they know what's happening. They just have no idea how. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is also yes, I guess,
I
with an
thought,
asterisk.
oh, you were gonna say no.
Got Elliot all fired up. He said, "We're gonna do it
I
live."
was getting ready to explode. I was about to go nuts.
Yeah,
You got me good, buddy. That was a
I
good one.
did. I got you. I saw you. I saw you leaning in. You're like,
Yeah,
"Ooh, we're gonna
yeah.
do it."
I was about to eat this mic.
Another person asked about acorns. So, how acorns are an abundant food source that most people just ignore now. So, um, Matt, have you had acorn flour?
I I think I have like in something like it was somebody's like banana bread or something. I remember I tried to make it as like a kid, but all the acorn like all of the hundreds of acorns I picked up in like a morning all had the like weevil inside
Oh
them.
yeah.
And so it was like, oh, you can like separate them like based on like which ones float versus which ones sink, right? And so I like poured this like I don't know, it was like half a bucket of acorns that I'd like picked up off the ground into like a sink and they like all floated. And I was like, oh my fucking and then I was done with stalking the wild
Fuck
asparagus for
foraging.
a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this book is horse shit.
Yeah. Yeah, acorns are a great food source. But I think one of the points that we've been trying to make with the show and something I've been kind of pushing Elliot to do, hint hint, nudge nudge, is that it's not very accessible and there are folks working to make it more accessible. But I would like to see a like meat and potatoes kind of engagement with like forageable foods, if that makes sense. Like very simple, accessible foods that exist on their own, and are not an attempt to replace something or something that's like too weird in terms of like a palate. But like something that like it's like okay, we've harvested these things and like we're trying to um, enjoy them for what they are, not to you know pretend there's something else. Like people like use acorns. A big thing with them is using the flour to make like pancakes, but you can only add 30, 40, depending on who you ask. And the acorn type you harvested, maybe 50 or 60% of the flour is acorn flour. And like that's awesome that you could use something local, but also like you're not using acorn flour, you're finding an excuse to use it, if that makes sense. And I think there's a little bit of it's a different conversation in a lot of ways, but I think it's also really important for us to start thinking that way. And how do we not use it as a filler, but use it as like something that we're exploring it for its own unique characteristics?
I think too there's like a space for um like having different flour sources throughout the year.
Yeah.
So like, having like for example, like making pancakes with like part acorn flour, part wheat flour, if that's like a way that you can like pad out the like 50-pound bag of flour that you buy for like a few more months, that's like certainly like mixing them is I think is certainly like worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't think you should use it, but rather we need to get out of just that mindset, which is I think like what 99% of Ford, like especially around acorns, because we're picking on that subject matter, is really about. It's about like how do I, it's almost like the fake meat version of like foraging, right? Where you're taking this
Mhm.
thing and you're trying to shove it into a puzzle piece or a puzzle that already exists instead of just being
Right.
like, this is not a part of this puzzle, or maybe we build a different puzzle and we can use some of the stuff from this other puzzle, but instead of just like how similar is this to another ingredient and just trying to like shove it in, kind of like green cars, like electric cars, right? We're not fixing the problem, we're just shoving something new into it. You're not changing that formula. and like we can do a lot with it. I'm not the best at like cooking. Well, it's not that I'm not a good cook, but like I don't have the patience or the time to like explore that kind of stuff. I know Elliot likes to. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Get
Yeah,
into that
but
food side.
I mean that's true. But again, if we're staying in the same vein in this conversation, I would be doing the same thing where I'd be replacing, one ingredient in my dinner with something that I haven't used before. And if you're talking about going out and foraging a meal and like seeing what that looks like, there's a whole lot of prep work and time that goes into that because if you're using a new ingredient, you're going to have to learn how to prep it. You're going to have to learn how to cook it or which techniques you're going to cook it to maximize flavor and make it taste like something you want to eat all the time, not something you're just eating for the novelty of it. So
Yeah,
there is a whole lot of exploration that goes into it. And honestly, I don't know where to start other than just randomly grabbing stuff that Andy, you tell me is edible. I'll believe you, buddy. I'll eat it.
yeah, we've
So
done that a few
you if
times.
if you want to go if you want to go on that walk through the woods with me, let's do it. We should do it on your property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care where we do it, but I definitely would like, and I think a lot of people would like to see that process and trying to think about foods differently. Maybe pulling more from like historical uses and utility to see how that can play into a modern like palate, which is I think a part of it that people don't really think about is that how we engage with food and what we think tastes good has changed significantly in the last 100 years.
Oh yeah,
And
go back to old school penny candies that they liked at the turn of the century. You can't eat none of it.
it's true. And yeah, and like with acorns, the thing is, it is so prevalent, and it seems like why are we not using it? How do we not use it? And like someone had said, one of the biggest challenges actually processing it. And people that one of the downsides of social media and like the ease of access to create content is anyone can create content, and they may or may not be actually qualified, like me. Um, so yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. We need to basically make local food sexy, and that doesn't mean like the locavore movement, but like local food that is local to a place. And I think part of that is letting that food stand on its own instead of again hiding it in another food. But of course, like there's space for all of those different utilities, like Matt said. Um, but I think there's a lot of people already doing that side of things, and someone has to kind of be on the other end. Um, as someone else said, also sometimes the acorns can come out tasting a little bit more bitter, which is like definitely frustrating, and like that's why it's really important to know your oak trees really well. And that's just like kind of the top layer. Like a tree can produce good acorns one year, not the next year. But knowing the species and there has been a lot of work like on the margins around oak trees with trying to find trees that are not very bitter. There's a few in particular, the bur oaks. There's actually the Latin name actually has two different varieties under it. The lowland bur oak and then the regular bur oak. The lowland bur oaks are the ones with the extra large nuts, and they're supposed to be basically almost no tannins. I've got some growing, but they're very very small, so I'm hoping to explore those and see like how valid that piece of information is. I think they're from like the Midwest, northern Midwest. So
Where I
they're
am, it's
yeah.
like all bur oak savanna, or like
Have
it originally was.
Are there tons of the giant ass oaks? Have you found any of those? Or are they all the like normal size or acorns
So
rather?
they're mostly normal size. But I have seen like we have a couple in our kitchen that are like the really big ones.
You got to
Yeah, they're
harvest some
like
and send them to me.
I don't know,
Yeah,
that big maybe.
yeah, they're huge. They're awesome. They're like bigger than hickories. If you can get some, send them to me. I want to grow them out.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah, it might be a little late, but you might find some. Um,
Yeah.
s-
Someone
uh, Good.
had a good question. Well, I don't know. Are we sorry?
You no, take it.
Someone had another good question about like cities and are people gonna like generally move out? Well, will cities be largely abandoned for rural spaces with the collapse of the industrial agricultural complex?
Are you asking me, or do you want to answer it?
Well, I think it's a good question. And well, I don't know. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Oh wow, you're just gonna punt it like that, huh?
Yeah. All right.
And
I don't think there's going to be like a mass exodus from cities. I think we're just going to have to learn how to what was the phrase we used when we were talking about small, gritty, and green, where it's just sort of reimagining the space to sort of pivot to give it multiple uses so that there's not just like an empty parking lot or an empty mall. You can reuse that space and turn it into, parks and gardens and um, that green space that cities are missing and lacking. I think those will come back and make living in the cities a bit more palatable.
yeah, I mean, I think one of
So
the like important things to remember is that like cities existed before industrialization,
mm,
and that like they'll most likely exist in some form afterwards. Um, the one of the like recent Low Tech Institute uh podcast episodes was on like gardens and how like our cities are currently like such an anomaly in that they produce like basically no food. Whereas like in the past for millennia, that's like never or very like rarely been the case that a city doesn't produce any of its own food.
Yeah, and that's something we covered in a prologue, right? The Parisian peaches, where we talked
yep.
about the utility of like the thermal mass of urban
But the
spaces to grow things that wouldn't be in range, which was pretty cool.
fruit walls, right?
Yeah, the fruit walls. I think it was peaches. Pretty sure it was.
I think so too.
Um,
That was a good one. And then
yeah,
also the citrus fruit in Russia was insane. That was a
yeah,
crazy
that's cool.
episode.
Yeah. I guess in terms of what we're talking about with this idea of urbanization is, I think what Elliot made up is really important because like big picture, like when we talk about like why cities are designed the way they are, um we have this idea of like hyper specialization, right? So cities now even exist as like these hyper specialized spaces. Boston's a biotech city, wherever, all these different cities have like a specialty, right? With the idea that by bringing all these things in one place, they can be hyper efficient. But we know from, Marx, for example, that like the rate of profit tends to drop. The rate of efficiency follows that same model. The rate of efficiency, improvements of efficiency tend to drop with more and more input. So the gains that we're getting from these, efficiency, decisions to make these cities hyper specialized or businesses hyper specialized that are huge space that, we built this factory that's like going to supply the entire world with XYZ. By doing it at this scale, we're able to go from 96% efficiency to 96.2% efficiency. That little gain of efficiency um, is not a whole lot because of the where we stand in terms of the development of our technology. To scale that back to, I'll just use an arbitrary number, maybe 80%, but then have a facility that can be utilized for a number of different industries. And again, is inherently based on the needs of that local community, not a global community. The offset of that efficiency loss will be made up for by the ability for it to utilize different utility, right? So that I think is the future of the city, is trying to figure out how to retrofit those facilities for a general use again. And the loss of efficiency is not going to be a big deal because you're offsetting it by things that are not being accounted for today, right? Uh, the fuel to ship XYZ product across the globe, that's not being fully calculated when we talk about how efficient that facility is, right? Because we're not fully accounting for the cost of fossil fuels. Like, there's no way, if we were, people wouldn't be doing businesses because it would be killing the planet, right? So, like, none of this would be happening. So, once we can account for those things, or the sense that we're going to lose the ability to do these things is kind of misguided because we're not fully calculating the cost of these things that we're doing today. So I think kind of what we're talking about, this idea of like, what do these cities look like? How do we retool them? How do we rethink about like bringing food back into cities, bringing green spaces back into cities, bringing whatever back into cities is not like out of the scale of what we can do as humans. And ultimately, despite the fact that your initial reaction is, "I'm going to run to the sticks and homestead my way," like the homestead is a myth. Like nobody survives on their own. Like it doesn't happen. Statistically speaking, it's a terrible life, and like very few people survive. Um, but also, like a lot of the farming we do today is based on technologies that we don't know how to farm without, right? So, like, how do you do these things? How do you graze livestock intensively without electric fence? Like, it's fucking impossible. Matt can attest to that because he has to deal with it every day.
Yeah, dragging.
Yeah.
I have to say, dragging like electric netting through like brambles on like a wooded hillside has definitely been one of the more frustrating experiences that I've
Yeah.
gone through.
And
Yeah, just
like, what is the alternative if you didn't have it though?
well, there's like kind of a high tech and a low tech answer to it.
Yeah, the
The high
GPS
tech
one,
is,
right?
yeah, what they're doing next year, which is virtual fencing, which I
Yeah.
think sounds fantastic, but then it also requires like
A physical fence.
internet enabled goats. Um, or I mean, like you have like stock proof boundaries, which take like decades, if not centuries, to properly get in place. Or
Yeah.
you have like someone that whose job it is to hang out with the goats most of the day.
Yeah. So like at the end of the
Or
day, the
just
point.
like, yeah.
Good.
Or just like you just like fundamentally like have a different system. Like you have like what the Icelandics do, where or just like a more transhumanist um like lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the point is that I'm trying to bring up is that like we have technologies, some of them are really good, and it's about the appropriateness of those technologies. And to reiterate, like we need urban spaces to develop the tools for those technologies. Like the idea that we can just all go live in the woods, like who's making your axe to chop down wood? Like there are materials we need, and it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be the way it is today. It's not that we much like the example we were talking about with like acorns, the goal isn't necessarily to replicate the way we live today, but is framed with different pieces, but to fundamentally rethink about what it means to live locally, right? And how do we integrate that into our identity and our daily living? And I don't think we should have the answers today because there's so many questions that we can't even like wrap our heads around to ask, right? So to me, the goal is then to start thinking about it and at least engaging with that idea with the understanding that like we're not going to have the answers. Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack on like what urban spaces look like in the future. And like one of the
I
great
don't
things about
I
being
don't
alive.
remember
Good.
sorry, I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was one of the first couple that we did where we went over small, gritty, and green, and just that whole question just reminded me of that topic. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to plug that in there.
A
I don't remember the
Yeah.
throwback.
name of the don't remember the name of the episode, but I believe it was Catherine Tumber wrote the book Small, Gritty, and Green, and we did that was one of the first episodes we did uh in the reimagining series. I think that started that series off.
Yeah, I
So
think it's
if you
Yeah, it
called
want,
was
reimagining cities or something like that.
yeah, and if you want to go back
it
to season
was
one.
it was called the reimagining miniseries The Urban Space.
The urban
Yeah.
space.
It's
Sounds
like
like
Oh
me.
yeah.
episode 7.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
so
that
I
that
think
that
we
whole
recorded
that whole
that while
answer
a
gave me
party
a
was going on in another room, actually.
yeah. Yep. We did. But
Yeah,
that whole conversation, that whole answer just kind of brought me back. I had flashbacks. It was weird.
yeah. Um, Yeah, let me see if we got any other questions. If anyone's got any live right
It's
now.
flashbacks to you. It's like horror flashbacks to you being stuck in a room with Andy.
We're
And
in that
having to,
NES
and then me
room,
having
old
to edit it
microphone.
back in the day. Um,
I'm alive.
let's see. I think we got them all. I think we got all of our questions. So unless anyone's got any in the chat, please let us know. Otherwise, yeah, what are you guys excited for? Did we do that yet? What are you excited for?
Yeah,
I know
we
you
did
guys
that
talk.
for season 3 for the episodes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Never mind.
I'm also excited to, we have things that we've had on the back burner and the kind of ideas brewing that we just don't have enough time to just tackle all at once. But Andy is right. He brought up a good point. We definitely do want to get more video content. And I think the cooking and food ways and reconnecting to how we work with food, I think is something that people uh, might not know they're missing. But I think once they see content like that, I think it'll open up some more doors and avenues for us to explore new content, new ideas, and new ways to get uh, ourselves out there. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got the podcast. Obviously, we're trying to get more into video content. It is a pain in the butt, but we're working on it. We've also got on the Discord. We're working on some seed sharing stuff for some rewilding, guerrilla gardening type projects. So if you're interested in that, we are probably going to start sending out those seeds in the next couple weeks. Um, but things can happen between now and then. So if you're interested, you've harvested seeds, or you want to get seeds or whatever, please jump on the Discord, join us, and we're going to be working on that. Hopefully, you guys have seen the restoration project that we post on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. But it's really cool. It gives you an idea of what you can do with the resources available. And what we're trying to do is make those resources available for as many people as we can. Now, someone asked about the elm, ash, and beech trees. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of hope for them. I just planted last year some European ash trees because I figured they can at least offer some ecosystem benefits. But the beech trees here are still pretty good. But I do know folks a little bit south and west of us where the beech trees are not doing very good. Um, yeah, the reality is like when we talk, I just had this interview a couple weeks ago with another podcast about um, what does it look like? What is the problem with like utilizing species that are non-native? Like one of the things people don't think about is the insects, the biological, the microbial component of it that we don't see, the damages that they can cause. And like when you start, we've got the PPA sites Instagram handle, and it's basically providing a framework for that seed project. And when you start going through all these keystone species, the majority of them are starting to have like huge health issues because of these new bacteria, fungi, and other stuff that's just depleting the landscape where they live. And we're talking about multiple keystone species that are at risk, and that's just like insane and scary. But it doesn't make the news the way like the sexier stuff does, like the iguanas in Florida that like people see, or the clownfish. Like, yeah, those are also problems. I'm not disagreeing, but like we're talking about like keystone species here, and that's huge, and it's getting no attention. And I think it's important for us to start thinking about that kind of stuff. Um, the last one I see is a fun question. If each of you could recommend one book, what would it be? Matt, what's your favorite book that you would recommend?
Mm, well, we were just talking the other night about The Water Knife. That's a really good you read it, Elliot?
No, I heard of it though. It's on the list.
Oh,
My
yeah,
list.
the list. It's just like super good, like near, like a little bit dystopian, near future. Just like the American Southwest, like Nevada, or like Las Vegas, California, Arizona, are like kind of all at like have like a small scale like conflict with each other. Um, a like fantastic piece of like future fiction.
Cool.
Cool. Elliot.
Sounds like if Dune was in Southwest U in the United States. Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean mine's fiction as well, because obviously I read fiction and sci-fi like it's my job. It's my escape from reality. But the one book that always stands out, and Andy, we talked about this before, because the author is a full-on psychopath, but he found a way to write a really good book. Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game series, the whole series, and then the Ender's Shadow series, was the first book that I read that really put the political climate and the political like machine in front of me, in front of my eyes when I was pretty young, and my worldview it could never go back to what it was before reading that book, and it really helped me open my eyes to a lot of things. So I highly recommend reading. Like, they made the movie Ender's Game, and it was okay, but the book has a lot more nuance to it, especially with the government and the world governments and things like that, that I think were understated or just neglected in the movie itself. But the rest of the book goes on and explains deeper connections with humanity and things like that. And it just was stuff that I hadn't really thought about. But once I did, like I said, it changed my perspective and helped me grow as a person. So I always go back and read those books every, few years, just to give me a refresher. And I really appreciate when I do. So Ender's Game, do it.
It's on my
What's
list.
yours? Yeah, what's yours? You got fiction or nonfiction, Andy?
So I was gonna pick a nonfiction, and then I realized I'll be the only one. Um, Obviously, this should be no surprise to anyone that's been listening to the podcast. It's my boy right here, J. Russell Smith. One of my favorite books, because he's a very unique writer who is just like it's just really optimistic, and it's like beautiful and happy, and like it just owns its place, and it's just like something about like just being like, hey, I like saw this thing, and it was like it inspired me, and like I was just encapsulated in the beauty, and then like let's break down the numbers, because he was like a math guy, like he wasn't really an agriculture guy, but like he has like this really unique perception and understanding of the needs of the landscape, and it's a really fun and enjoyable book if you're into the stuff we are. If you could cancel one person's thoughts, arguments, and uncancel one person's, I don't know enough people that are canceled so much that we don't know their arguments. I'm not that socially inept. Um, if you could cancel one person's thoughts, ah, shit, that's a good one. I'm gonna I'm gonna punt it to Matt. You got one for that?
Nope.
No, Elliot.
Uh,
I'll go with Jordan Peterson
gonna say
because
Tucker Carlson on fucking Fox News, because every time that dude starts talking, my eyes roll back into my head and I start sweating.
yeah, I think the problem with Jordan Peterson, in particular, is that he's so good at taking stuff he knows very well and then using that as a carrot to get people to go down these like very dangerous rabbit holes, right? It's
Hmm.
very hard to argue with some of his content, and then like you follow the way it goes, and suddenly you're like, "How the hell did I get here?" And he's very good at it, and that's very dangerous. So if there's one person I'd cancel, it'd probably be him. And do you guys have a favorite bird?
I like the is it the downy woodpecker that has the like red pants?
I'm not good at bird ID, like wild
Hang
birds.
on.
My answer will piss off the vegans, so I'm just gonna stand pat.
I don't think they listen to us anymore. It's fine. Don't worry. I took care of that.
Yeah, you did. It was great.
Yeah,
So what's yours,
none of them
Elliot?
came on the live stream.
My favorite bird.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the flightless ones. Like penguins are awesome.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about something you were eating. You're not eating penguin.
I tried to get out of my comfort zone. All right, I can't just eat my feelings all the time, Andy.
Fine.
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. Okay. I was going to go with my new favorite bird lately is geese because they're just
Uh,
stupid and
that's a complete 180.
yeah. I've come around to appreciating a good goose. I think we don't spend enough time appreciating that geese can live 100% on forage and are like annoying, but like basically can more or less protect themselves. Like we're sleeping on geese.
Yeah, they're
Like
vicious.
they are the underappreciated species.
Not enough team names and mascots after geese. They should do it.
Yeah,
It's a ferocious, fierce animal.
we're gonna
Hmm.
bring geese farming back. Make geese great again. Some goose acorn. Oh, could we bread some goose breasts with acorn flour? Elliot, is that something we can do?
Don't think acorn flour would be good for frying or cooking. I believe it would be better for baking and stuff like that. Has something to do with the oil content or something. I don't really know. I don't really know, Andy, but we can try it. I'll
Okay,
always try it.
okay. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some Canadian geese with some
And
acorn
acorn
flour.
flour.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that.
Start
It's the
having
future.
goose again for Christmas.
Make
See
make
that
goose
sounds
Christmas again. Make
that
Christmas
sounds like
goose
some
again.
that sounds like something I could get behind because the whole traditional Thanksgiving turkey and then doing it again for Christmas is just kind of dumb to me.
Yeah. So yeah, they don't lay any eggs, like somebody just asked. But theoretically, if you're raising them, like anyone that has chickens, but they also like want to have like a sustainable flock or whatever, like there's you end up with too many eggs very quickly, right? Like even just hedging for like losses, especially if you free range them. At some points in the year, you're getting like 20 eggs a day. So instead, have a goose, have a bunch of geese, right? Where they're all laying once a, I think they lay like 30 eggs a year, something like that. So once a week. So you're spreading that out and you're also getting bigger eggs. So instead of using three, you're using one. So I actually think that could be a benefit. So I don't know if you can trick geese into laying eggs. I actually haven't spent a lot of time working with geese. I do know some folks that have geese, but I don't have any personally, but I'm coming around to that idea. So that might be on the 2023 docket. Actually, it was supposed to be on the 2022 docket, but I had eggs in an incubator and my son knocked the incubator over. So I did not get my geese this year. So now it's been just like simmering on my brain for the last year.
I'm just picturing your backyard with more poultry. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
You're just gonna keep
Uh,
adding feathers.
yeah. In terms of what people should be doing today to prepare for tomorrow, talking to their neighbors,
Insulating your house.
insulating your house. Elliot?
Is that the what's something people overlooked? You should be doing
Yeah,
to prepare for tomorrow. Uh, I'm gonna go ahead and say fresh water storage because the water wars are coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Get
so
together with your neighbors and dig a lake.
yeah, glay ponds. We're doing glay pond content one of these days. If you subscribe to us on Instagram, I don't normally do anything with it, but I also like post some of my more unhinged farm shit, like my exploration of glay ponds as a tool. We can talk about that on another time. We are running out of time because I do have to give up my office soon. But glay ponds are totally under researched, but are very cool and offer a lot of opportunity for creating temporary habitats for trees, as well as just like helping water seep into the grounds. So you can go check out what you can. There's just not a lot of stuff on the internet, so I've been testing a lot of it. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Actually, no, that's not it. Also, big news. I will be fingers crossed if things go well. There may be a Proles book coming. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so we will, or I will announce more when I have more to announce. But lots of cool stuff happening. So Fukuoka dropped an hour ago. Go listen to it as soon as you can. I'm about to go post a whole bunch of memes. They're already in the
I'm gonna
story,
go
but
listen to it right now.
yeah, Elliot's gonna go listen to it because he doesn't remember any of it.
No,
We recorded in like August, and you were pretty high. So
I do remember that
okay. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
part. No,
No,
this is the kickoff to season three. It's awesome. I can't believe we've come this far. I did not know where any of this is going, and I feel like I say that every year, but it really is surprising and exciting and just pretty unbelievable from where I'm sitting to have done all of this. So thank you all for your support and listening. Really appreciate it. And please continue to do so. We love you and appreciate you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Peace.